The Gas Production Enhancement Agreement is really a landmark achievement, both for Dana Gas, and I think it's also a great progress for the Egyptian government. The reason why that is the case is that it's a win-win solution for both Dana Gas and the Egyptian government. From an Egyptian government perspective, the agreement will allow increased amounts of gas to be produced, and from Dana Gas's perspective, it allows us to be paid for the products, both gas and liquids, that we produce in the country. But first, let me go back and elaborate a little bit on the current situation in Egypt. Dana Gas in the Nile Delta has a number of mature assets. Those are fully developed fields. We have a number of underdeveloped assets. That means that we have fields which are not yet fully developed. They have additional reserves that could be produced, but we need to drill additional development wells in order to be able to access those complete resources. In addition, we have one field which was discovered in 2012, which has not been developed at all and requires to be fully developed. Now, normally speaking, we would go ahead and develop all of these assets to maximize the value of these assets to Dana Gas in Egypt. But we have not been doing so because since January of 2011, when the political incidents took place starting in that month, we have not been paid fully for the products that we've been delivering to the Egyptian government. And as a result of that, we have had to rein back on the level of investments that we've been making in Egypt. Now, this got us into a bit of a do loop with the Egyptian government. The Egyptian government was telling us, please produce more and we'll pay you later. And we were saying, well, if you pay us now, then we will make more investments and we will produce more. And we got stuck a little bit in this loop. Now, the Gas Production Enhancement Agreement breaks that deadlock, that logjam. What the agreement allows for is that we will go ahead and make these additional investments in Egypt, and these are substantial investments. It's $270 million of new investments, primarily in drilling of new development wells, over a period of 7 wells. The majority of that, $200 million, will be invested in the first 2 years. Now, with that additional investment and the drilling of 37 development wells, will come significant increased gas production. We will plan to increase our production by about 50%. And be able to plateau 3 to 4 years at a level of about 250 million standard cubic feet per day. With that increased gas production comes increased liquids production in the form of condensates and LPGs. Normally speaking, the share of these liquids components is about 50-50 between the government of Egypt and ourselves. But what we have agreed under the Gas Production Enhancement Agreement is that we will take all of those liquids that are produced as a result of the incremental gas production, and we will be able to export those liquids onto the international market, sell them on the international market, and be paid directly by the market in hard currency. The Gas Production Enhancement Agreement has within it a number of conditions precedent. That is to say, these are conditions that need to be satisfied before we actually start executing the project. The first of these is that we will actually receive payment in advance from the Egyptian government to cover the full costs of drilling the first wells in the second half of this year. Now, I'm very pleased to say that we're very close to satisfying that condition precedent. There is a second condition precedent, which is to satisfy the completion of all of the ancillary documents that go along with this agreement. And again, we target that will be completed by the end of October. So the short answer is that we expect that we will be able to get started on this project at the beginning of November of this year. Now, the investments that we make will take some time before the increased production comes on stream. But we expect to see that the first results of this, the incremental production, will be manifesting themselves in the first quarter of 2015. Now, because of the level of investments that we make in this project in the first 2 years, we will not actually see free cash being developed or being released from this project until the middle of 2016. Thereafter, however, we will see the overdue receivables that currently stand at $300 million paid down within a 2-year period. We're very excited that we've recently managed to successfully bid for and be assigned 2 new blocks in the Nile Delta. That's Block 1 and Block 3. These 2 blocks are adjacent to and in fact surround our existing development leases. So they're contiguous with our existing assets. Block 1 is very much in keeping with the existing assets that we have, both in terms of their geology and in terms of their depth. So this is very much what we consider to be our bread and butter. And given that we have very successfully explored 4 new resources in our existing development leases, having doubled our level of production and reserves over the course of the last 7 years, we hope very much that we will be able to replicate that success in Block 1 and allow us to continue to extend the plateau of production beyond the 3 to 4 years and extend perhaps out to 7 years or so. Block 3 is slightly different. Block 3 is a block which has a lot of deep potential. Our existing fields are at about 3,000 meters of depth. The deep potential, which is in an interval called the Oligocene, is double that depth. It's around 6,000 meters. Now, drilling to these depths in the Nile Delta is technically complex and therefore it's very challenging to do. But the rewards in the case of success are very great. The Oligocene has been drilled in the offshore and many discoveries have been made to date, all of them with multiple TCFs of gas reserves. However, the costs of drilling offshore are extremely high. What we have here in Block 3 is the opportunity to drill the same very high potential interval, but in the much lower cost environment of drilling onshore. We're very excited that we anticipate that we will start the drilling of our first exploration well into the Oligocene deep potential at the beginning of 2016. In the case of success, we anticipate that we'll be able to bring that discovery well on stream within about 18 months, which is to say in the middle of 2017. We will have to drill a number of appraisal and development wells thereafter, each of which can be brought on stream using an early production facility and tied into our existing network. But at some point we'll be able to put a complete field development plan in place, which will involve the construction of a new gas processing plant, and we expect that that would be in place sometime towards 2019-2020. We are very proud as Dana Gas that we've just reached a really important milestone in our operations in Egypt, which is that we've just produced 100 million barrels since we started our operations there in the beginning of 2007. Now, this is a fantastic achievement. Not only is it a result of a lot of extremely hard work, successful exploration drilling, successful development, but it also results from the investment of over $1.5 billion that Dana Gas has made in its operations in Egypt. In that process, we have grown to employ over 800 local staff, more than 98% of whom are Egyptians. And of the money that we spend in Egypt, almost 80% of it is spent with local contracting companies. So I think it's a fantastic story, not only of success as far as Dana Gas is concerned, but of a consistent investment that Dana Gas has made in the economy in Egypt. We in Dana Gas are very excited about the long-term potential in Egypt. In addition to Blocks 1 and Blocks 3, which are the new concession areas that we've just signed with the government, we also signed in February of 2014 a new concession area, exploration concession area in Block 6, offshore the Nile Delta. Now, these 3 blocks together, we believe, contain significant growth potential for Dana Gas and have the potential to more than double production in the years to come. So we're very excited about that long-term potential in the country. Dana Gas received from the Egyptian government a payment as part of an overall payment to the petroleum sector at the end of 2013 amounting to $53 million. Now, the government has again stated that it is intending to make a payment to the petroleum sector in Egypt amounting to about $1.5 billion in the middle of this year. We expect as Dana Gas to get our share of that industry payout linked to the amount of outstanding receivables that we still have with the government. We are hopeful that that payment will be forthcoming very soon, and as we are approaching the end of September, we hope that this will take place next month in October. The Gas Production Enhancement Agreement is an extremely important marker for Dana Gas, its shareholders, and also its wider stakeholders. Clearly, this agreement allows Dana Gas now to get a return on the investments that it makes in Egypt. But also it provides increased production, which will be of benefit to the Egyptian government and the people of Egypt. In that respect, I also would like to acknowledge the role that has been played by the UAE government, Dr. Sultan Al Jaber as Minister of State, and the Egyptian task force, who have been extremely helpful in the successful implementation of this agreement. Overall, this gas production enhancement agreement puts Dana Gas's business in Egypt onto a sustainable footing going forwards, and I'm very, very excited about our future in Egypt. We also have, of course, ongoing production from our assets in Kurdistan region of Iraq, representing about 30,000 barrels of oil equivalent per day as well. What we're also very excited about is the development of our Zohra project offshore the United Arab Emirates. The Zohra field straddles the Ajman and Sharjah offshore territorial waters, and when it's brought on stream, which we hope will be in the middle of next year, will produce about 40 million standard cubic feet of gas per day, which will represent about 10% of Dana Gas's current production, and will represent a much needed source of clean energy supplies for the Northern Arab Emirates. So altogether, we are very, very excited about this growth potential that these projects represent for Dana Gas and for Dana Gas's future.